Welcome back, wine family.
Hello. Hey. I want it to be different.
Okay. That was okay for you?
Hey, guys.
Hey.
Today we're drinking some Oliver Blueberry Moscato.
Yeah.
It's very good. I recommend. Yes. We don't know if you guys know, but July was Minority Mental Health Awareness Month. Mm-hmm. So we thought that since July just ended, we should highlight some things that were going on.
Oh, I don't know if you all have seen recently within the media that G Herbo, a Chicago native, is having a campaign called Swerving Through Stress, where he's providing mental health services for people ages 18 to 25. So although, it is detailing that it's for youth, we consider more so young adults based on the age group in which we've worked with and where we consider the cutoff for adulthood versus youth.
So I think that it's very kudos to you, G Herbo, because it's very needed, especially with that age range, because that is like the prime age range where people are trying to figure out their life, figure out who they are. Just really have an identity, and that could be stressful. And sometimes people need help navigating through that stress, and they don't always know how. They might tend to, self-medicate or have like unhealthy coping skills to get through that time. And we think it's really good what he's doing.
Absolutely. I think, within the mental health field, there's so much stigma within certain populations of people where they may not necessarily want to go receive the services that they need. So I do think that within him being like the face of mental health services and wanting to tell about his story, it's very important, and it very much helps the next person saying, G Herbo can do it. I can too. Right.
Yeah, I think that's very important to know, because I know a lot of people look up to him and listen to him, and they might listen to their favorite rapper before they listen to like even their parents.
Right.
So if like a famous rapper is telling you like therapy is okay, therapy is, I wish I had it, you should get it too. So I'm gonna help you. I think it's very great what he's doing.
Exactly. And two, like we would encourage, even if you're younger than 18, trying to seek out services.
See if he'll help, because I do think that this is like a project that he can even expand into like the CPS range. Like I'm thinking he should have, started at 14 maybe, because they're trying to figure out high school, and I do think I see a future for this program, because I would honestly even start at like maybe 6th, 7th grade, like that middle school range. Like I think we both dealt with like that age range, so we kind of have experience. Like stress is not limited to a specific age.
Exactly. Everyone goes through their own, not to say demise, but everyone goes through their own struggles, and whether you're 4 to,
94.
Yeah, pretty much, you have something that may contribute to why you're feeling a certain emotional or mental lack thereof.
And I think since we're even talking about stress, it's important to understand that like stress looks different for everybody. So it's not one of those things that you can compare to somebody else. Like you can't compare your situation to what somebody else is going through. Even if it's like a similar situation, how you handle it is so much different from how somebody else would. And I think that's, it's individualized, and you're entitled. I think we were talking about that in like some previous videos. You're entitled to feel how you feel, and you're entitled to deal with it how you deal with it. It's not a right or wrong answer.
And also within talking about youth, which, certain ages, I know you may not necessarily want to talk to a complete stranger about your issues and you want to bottle it up. And also there are certain things in which are in play where you may not necessarily be able to get therapeutic services unless you get a sign off from a parent or guardian, which is something I feel like would be important too within what G Herbo is doing. Is pretty much they're 18, so essentially they can consent for themselves. But those that are a little bit younger and can't consent and they need a parent or guardian signature, definitely, reaching out and seeing as far as like if that person can talk to the parent to encourage them or just give them the facts of certain effects that contributes to when a person receives therapy versus when they don't. I know a lot of people are against like medication and talking to outside sources, but having a therapist that can understand your cultural background and where you're coming from in order to give you, the best knowledge for what exactly it is that you want, and telling you what you may need so that it comes in play where you all are meeting somewhere in the middle.
Yeah. I was also even going to go like thinking on the financial side. Like I know 18 to 25 is usually when people go off to college. Mm-hmm. They usually don't have all the resources there for them. So I think it's great because, therapy is not cheap. Mm-hmm. And especially if your insurance doesn't cover it. Right. So I think it's great that he's even providing that many people with like services, especially in college, because let's be real, we all know college is not easy, especially if you're going away from your family for the first time, living on your own, and you don't always want to, tell your family what you're going through and be like a burden on them, so to speak. So I think that those services will be helpful for those type, that population even, because let me tell you, I wish I had some counseling in college. It would have been helpful. Mm-hmm.
And also within going on that as well, I know some people may not necessarily want to utilize their college counselors or, their school counselors. I get that, given, I had an experience where I went to a predominantly white school, and when I, was more so, it was like not a career counselor, but more so like a guidance counselor. Yeah, and, pretty much he didn't understand, my background. He didn't understand, like, what it was I was trying to do as far as goals, and pretty much just diminished, like, what it is I was trying to do. And, if I went with that mindset of, okay, well, maybe he's right, then I wouldn't have excelled to where I am now. So knowing your worth, knowing, who you are at the end of the day. And I know a lot of people may not necessarily know that at a certain age. I was blessed to have, parents that instilled in me certain messages where I knew who I was. I was comfortable within my own skin, and I knew, like, I hear what you're saying. I hear that you're a guidance counselor. You got, your degree in X, Y, and Z, but that's just not where I see myself. I don't see that for me. I see something else. And, I took that as fuel to, pretty much go beyond.
I'm going to be the counselor I needed.
Right, exactly. I would never want to tell someone that they are not good enough to do. Yes, I want to be realistic with them, but also, giving them other options. How about trying this instead? And going with that, some counselors are able to work with you and understand, this method that you're essentially working with may not mesh well with you, so let's try something different. So having someone that can work with you and provide you a variety of ways. And sometimes if they're not competent within that, it may be time to seek a new counselor.
And that's okay to get one, because I know a lot of people, like, even dealing with the clients that I've dealt with, specifically, they were youth, and they've even said, like, I don't want a counselor that doesn't look like me, because they don't understand what I'm going through. Mm-hmm. And that means a lot at a young age. Like, you kind of need to, have some kind of relatability to really, truly, like, give them adequate advice, because you might not understand their culture, and it's okay if you don't. And that's when, as a clinician, you should do the ethical thing to do and refer them if it's not working for you. Don't try to force it. And it's okay. It's okay to get a referral, and it's okay for, youth out there that are looking for counselors. It's okay to get the counselor that you need, and that's right for you. Mm-hmm. Don't force it.
And that's the thing too. A lot of people don't realize that, just like, a doctor, if you don't really feel as though they're assessing your needs appropriately, then know that you can seek, elsewhere.
Always ask for a referral.
Because ultimately, it's your money that you're paying. You're paying for a service, and you should be able to reap something from that service.
You should also be comfortable and feel like, this is for me.
And granted, there may be times in which you feel like you can't stand your therapist because they're really like getting into the issues, or you feel like you just don't want to open up. And
it takes time.
A good therapist is gonna work with you. Want to make sure you feel comfortable with the things that you're talking about, but they're still
not gonna force you, but they're gonna push you. I think that is important to know. I had a few resistant clients, and I didn't force them to talk. If they didn't want to talk in therapy, we're gonna sit here. I'm gonna just listen when you're ready to talk. So eventually they would come around, but I wasn't gonna force anything that made them feel uncomfortable. If they didn't want to talk about that subject, okay, let's move on. What do you want to talk about today?
Right. And
that comes a long way.
It does. I think like the most important key is building rapport. Like even if we're just playing a game, but it's still some type of, not say device, but it's something in front of you where you're playing it, where they're not feeling as like
focused
on you, and oh well, now I gotta open up and do X, Y, and Z. Like you'll be more comfortable and laid back and playing a game, but just having some talk to get to know that person and just picking up on certain interests here or there.
So even the little games where you ask them, what's your favorite ice cream flavor? You can learn a lot by the answer.
Right. And then utilizing it. Let's go get some ice cream and let's talk about this. And it just keeps building from there and builds that relationship. I mean, that's the most crucial component in having a relationship with your therapist.
Therapeutic relationship.
Right. Also, like within, thinking about minorities and mental health, we do know, like based on research, that a lot of times certain populations are more medicated than others. So like African Americans, for example, metabolize slower. However, they are ones to be more heavily medicated opposed to their white counterparts. So I think that's important to note, that you have the right to, not to say refuse medication, but you don't have to take but you have the right to indicate, let's start somewhere small, or voice your concerns, because typically within having higher doses of medication, that does present more so lasting side effects that can be.
All this medication is definitely not good for you.
It can be detrimental, but it also can be helpful. It's just a matter of what's the severity of your symptoms, pretty much. But I do encourage you, if you have concerns, within speaking with your therapist, because it's psychologists and psychiatrists. So like your psychologist may not necessarily be able to prescribe medication, but your psychiatrist can. Those may be two different people, and being able to talk to your psychologist or your psychiatrist about your side effects and potentially lowering the dosage. But also within that, a lot of times, with me working with youth, they're not ones more so to be able to like write out what their symptoms are, what their side effects are. So if you do begin taking a new medication, sometimes it takes a while for it to like kick in. Write down, what things you notice, so that way you can have like a dialogue with your psychiatrist in regards to what you feel like helped about it, what you feel like didn't, and then they can make the necessary adjustments. Because when you look at if things are starting to intensify, typically that indicates that lower dosage is not working and we need to up it. So just being honest with yourself and honest with your psychiatrist is also important as well.